That was at about 18 or so. 19 years old. And they were into drug wars and stealing cars and armed robberies. I felt pregnant. That's when we started with ecstasy. We would go clubbing and tripping and getting high. It would be stabbing and fighting and go home bloody. I'm gonna stop doing drugs and bad things. But I didn't have a relationship with God. I just spoke to him because I grew up knowing there was a God.
Bondage, cheating, and drugs led to their destruction.
Hey, you know where you went? What's up, mister, huh? Hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Put that gun down. Listen, what's wrong with you guys? You know, violence and hate. God loves you guys. You got a problem with this?
God has a greater plan for your life.
Right now, I pray for Ron.
134 be advised, sir.
No, I got it.
Welcome to Treasures. Today we're taking you to Johannesburg, South Africa, where crime has overtaken the city over the past several years. In 2013 alone, Johannesburg recorded over 14,000 crimes. Among these crimes are murder, robbery, and many of the Johannesburg natives are addicted to drugs and are in need of Jesus.
The Ministry of Victory Outreach has now expanded into Johannesburg to share the gospel with the hurting people of the city. We have seen such a great response from people who simply found a hope they never knew existed.
Among these people in Johannesburg were George and Rush. Rush was addicted to drugs for the majority of her life, and George came from a Muslim background. But one day, their lives were changed.
My name is Roshni Katz. I'm from Johannesburg, South Africa. I grew up in Westbury. It's in Johannesburg. I lived with my grandmother, my grandfather. They murdered my dad at the age of 9. My dad was shot and killed in his car while he was sleeping. He was related in some gang. He was a gang member of Westbury. In Westbury they have two groups. It's called Fast Guns and Varados. So my father was one of the leaders of the Varados. They took each other out. There was murders happening, killing, and because they didn't, whatever, that it wasn't easy getting to my dad. So while at a party, while sleeping outside in his car, he was shot 3 times in the head while he was sleeping. When my dad got murdered, I was 8 or 9 years old. 8 going for 9. As a South African colored child, as long as you clothe well, you get everything you need, you go to school, you have no say. So I guess back then, I didn't really, cry or mourn for my dad. It happened and it's done and it's over. Get over with it. That's the way it is. It affected me then, but as I grew older, it did. Because then I started missing a father figure, especially when I got into the wrong relationship, abusive relationships. From primary school to high school, my mother came and she fetched me from my grandparents because she thought Westbury wasn't a good area for me to go to high school. And then she took me to Eldorado Park, where I think she took me to even worse because Eldorado Park is faster than Westbury. That's when I was 13, 14 years old. And I met these new friends in high school. They go out often. They have these guys driving fancy cars. And I wanted to be a part of that. I dated older guys then, at the age of 14, 15, older guys. The wrong type of guys, that's into gangsterism, stealing cars, because car theft is a big thing in Eldorado Park. And my friends hung out with those type of guys, and that's how I got a part of those guys. So I started dating them. My daughter, that's not in our marriage. I met Jojo when she was 3 years old. Our father is a big gangster. They used to have terrible gang fights. That was at about 18 or so. 19 years old. I dated him and they were into drug wars and stealing cars and armed robberies. I fell pregnant. I had a baby from him. While he was in jail, I used to go out with his friends' girlfriends. That's when we started with ecstasy. We would go clubbing and tripping and getting high. I left my daughter with my mother. Where sometimes we would get in terrible fights because he had a lot of girlfriends then. And it would be stabbing and fighting and go home bloody. And in that time, while he was in jail, that's when I met my husband.
Some friend came to me one day and just said that there's this lady that needs a lift to a grandmother's place that's Westbury, and they asked would I be able to give her a lift to a grandmother's place, and I said no problem, it's fine.
But then I met my husband and he was way different. He wasn't the gangster type. He worked hard. And I thought, man, this is the person for me.
But then she invited me like to a party the night then. That's where I got dressed up and couldn't wait for the night time, and we started off there.
We started dating and that's when we met new friends, and I left all the old lifestyle with my daughter's dad. Moving from ecstasy, we met new friends and they introduced us to Cat. Cat is like cocaine, but it's a way cheaper substance. And yeah, and then we started doing cocaine. We got us an apartment, a one-bedroom apartment where we lived in. And George was still working then. I had a job. And things were okay then, because we had an income. I went to work. Things worked out okay. But in that time, there was always a lot of hurt still.
It started off abusive, but the way things got bad with myself and Roshni, where we started getting physical. At that time it was, the unfaithfulness and more, arguing about things.
So for 12 years we had a broken relationship because things would happen and it would be dating, cheating. There was a lot of abuse. We would hit each other and, we could never be together in one room for too long. And it would always just end up in terror.
My marriage was one thing that I couldn't get the hold and say that I'm gonna get this and I'm gonna work it out. I tried everything in my life. We went to I went to fortune tellers. We went for marriage counseling. There's a stage that we even went to witchcraft because of not, my marriage is not working and I'm trying everything. This woman is just fighting.
That's when everything fell totally apart. Where you would go to work and sometimes never even come back home. You would leave me with the children. By then, I was pregnant with our third child. He's 18 months now. And I couldn't stop smoking because I got so depressed that I was using while I was pregnant. From Cat, I moved to crystal meth. I started snorting crystal meth. That was bad. I literally took our furniture from our home. I would wait for him to leave. I would pull up at home and appliances, TVs, anything I could get my hands on, the children's PlayStations. I sold everything. It got so bad where I sometimes took my spare wheel in the car and drove to the scrapyard where they sell scrap metal. I would sell it there for 100 Rand. That would be 2 bags of crystal meth, and I would be fine with that. Mostly I would hang out with guys that does the robbing. I would drive them around and maybe park somewhere else and they would do all of that. When you don't have any cash, when you have no cash, you just can't, there's no way to get your next fix. where you sometimes had to go to the merchant, give them fake money, especially at night, and just drive off. And they would be chasing you somewhere. I had a lot of cases because I was a very violent person, but that would be maybe for a day. I was never caught with drugs. There was a time when I sold drugs that I was under investigation. I know all the dealers, and living in El Dorado Park, all the dealers live in Westbury. And I used to drive people through to buy in bulk, maybe 50 grams or 100 grams, and I would get it for a good price for them.
At this point in their life, it seemed like there was just no way out. But the Word of God tells us that Jesus is the way. And He has not only become the way out, but He is the way into a new beginning. Let's go back to their story and hear how their lives were changed.
Just when something was about to go down, our biggest deal ever, I ended up at Victory Outreach in Cape Town. The week before I left for Victory Outreach, that's when I got really sick. I had a nervous breakdown because I was so stressed out, and at that time I was going through a divorce where I had no money to pay my attorney. I had no idea how was I going to get about. I ended up in a hospital in Pretoria because my sister lives there. I just came out back that day at 2 in the morning. My sister was busy chatting to someone, and I asked her, who are you chatting to? And she told me, no, it's just old friends she met when she was at Victory Outreach. And I told her, tell me more about that place. And she said, well, I was there for 7 months and this is what happens. I said, you know what, I just need time to get away. I told her that I'm gonna need proof now to prove to the courts that I tried being, because I'm gonna lose my children. The court's gonna take my children, my husband's gonna win my children. Because with these people and with the investigation going on, and I knew about that. Because I cried, I used to sit and cry in my car, and I used to ask God, you need to give me direction. I had a diary where I wrote in everything, and there's all these things I asked God. I made exchanges, you know, if you come through for me, if you're really there, I'm gonna stop doing drugs and bad things. But I didn't have a relationship with God. I just spoke to Him because I grew up knowing there was a God. I said, you know what, I need to get away. She says, are you serious? I said, I'm dead serious. She said, I can tell them now that you want to come there, and what if they say you come there now? I told her, it's fine, I'll go there now. When I got to the women's home, the first month was a little bit hard. The second month, I watched everyone else around me, things that happens. But I still remember when I walked there, and Sister Loretta still called me in and I explained my situation. When I got there, I told him that I have no family. I told him my mother's dead. I don't have I had to tell him I have a husband. I said, but I don't want to hear nothing. I don't want to see him. I just want to get my life right here, go back and get my kids. That's when Sister Loretta explained to me that while you're here, we not say that you can't get divorced, but while you're here, you have to put everything on hold. So when you're done, because we don't believe in divorce, and then you can carry on. I said, no problem. She said, you sure you'll never go back? I said, I'm sure I'll never go back. Not even God will make me take back my husband. She just shook her head and said, okay. In the Victory Outreach Women Recovery Home in Cape Town, when I gave my life to Jesus, finally, that's when I started to have these encounters with God. I was bitter, I was full of hatred. I was overflowing with anger. And then this one night we had the session with Sister Shannon, one of the ladies in the recovery home in Cape Town at Victory Outreach. She said, you know, we're gonna have a session tonight with the ladies. We're gonna have a prayer evening, and we're gonna ask God to forgive, so that we can forgive ourselves and we can forgive. And I remember being in the sanctuary, and I was all this stuff, and I said, because all the girls were getting ready to pray, and she played this nice music, and she said, you know, close your eyes. And I was fighting in it. I said, no way, I'm not gonna do this. And she came to me and she put her hand on my shoulder and she said, you know, let me pray for you and then after you speak to God. And then she put her hand on me and she started praying, asking the Lord to help me to forgive myself. And when she left, I started speaking to God myself. Miraculously, I started saying things that I would never have said. I asked the Lord to forgive me what I've done to my husband. And all these things came out and I broke down in tears where I ended up laying on my stomach and I sobbed and I couldn't, there was this time when I literally felt like, you know, someone doing that, but I had this feeling that it's gonna be okay. The women in the women's home gathered around me and they prayed with me. I remember when I was done with it, I felt this lightness, very, very light. And the next morning, I remember getting up and telling one of the sisters in the recovery home, you have to contact my husband, I have to let them know, to let my family know where I am.
A sister sent me a message that Roshni is on her way to rehab. And to me, it was like, they need something, they want money. And I just didn't reply, I didn't do anything, and I just left it. And 3 months later, I got a strange phone call from a lady saying that she's from Victory Outreach Recovery Home, and Roshni would like you to call her.
That was after 3 months because I was so full of hatred. I didn't let them know. I didn't want them to know where I was. I hated my husband so much. I never thought I would ever go back to him. And when they let him know where I was, I spoke to him for the first time and all I can remember was asking for forgiveness for everything.
Speaking to her, it was this person just hello and apologizing and saying I'm sorry and just here weeping over the phone. And I was like, oh, what did these people do to that woman? Because she's not that kind of person to apologize and to even say I'm sorry. It was like, what is happening? And we had a conversation and she asked how are the kids and she would like to speak to the children.
But that day I stood there and I asked for them to forgive me for everything that I have done. Wow, and that's when I spoke to my children for the first time. We've made arrangements for them to come see me. But then in that time, I got a chance to come to Johannesburg for 1 week and see them. Because our pastors came down to come scout the land and they chose me to come down with them. They gave me all these instructions and I was so worried because I was in the woman's home then. We didn't have no telephone, internet or anything. And I thought, how am I going to, everything that they want to be done, you know, like arranging interviews with radio stations in Johannesburg. Because I knew all these people, I was friends with all these people. And maybe with the newspapers or places, buildings for them to go look at. I stood in the sanctuary every day and I prayed and I said, Lord, how am I? But miraculously, everything I prayed for, then God used my husband in Johannesburg to do all of that. So for the first week when the UTC came down, he hosted the UTC.
But the love that I felt with those people, being in the house and the way they treated and communicated with me.
I was always worried about when I go home because he comes from a Muslim background and I was Christian I never changed my religion. And in that time, God was moving so miraculously that they fall into the program with the UTC. They saw how they got up. My children loved it. My children was involved in the dramas with them. He drove them around. He saw the lifestyle that Victory Outreach teaches us, the humbleness, loving each other, you know, and he fell in love with that then already. So when I came through, I was blown away by all the things, because everything I prayed for that I wanted to be done, that they needed me to do this side, or that had to be done this side, it was taken care of already.
Walking into the men's home in Cape Town, the recovery home in Cape Town, it was early in the morning, and a lot of men sitting around reading the Bibles, but each one you walk past, they greet you with respect, and you're like, wow, these are people like me, myself. Going to the home, I know how to pray, and every morning when I get to Century, he'll be sitting there waiting for me, and he'd sit by my side, and just, he says, just speak. There's nothing I can say to you, just speak, say what. And I started doing what everyone else was doing, all the people praying in the Century. And that's where I felt that I need to stay longer than 3 weeks. Everyone was speaking and saying that you have encounter with Jesus, and I was waiting, to experience that. And every day I'd go into Century, starting to pray.
And out of our 12 years, these last 10 months, they've been the best months in our life ever, because those were 12 broken, horrible years. I've never been this happy the way that I am now with Victory Outreach and my lifestyle with God. Whoa, I don't have words.
A totally different person. She was never that type, to hang on me and say that she loves me. Now and then she says that I love you. We wake up in the morning, we look at each other first thing in the morning. Something that never used to happen. We doesn't happen, it's changed. You feel the change. We see the change in our house, the way we interact with one another.
Oh, I love my husband. I really love my husband. I love my family. Sometimes I sit there and every day I think that only one person could have done this, and that is God, because this is a miracle. And I used to pray, Lord, when I go back, you have to give me a good husband. And He did. He gave me my own husband back, because I have a good husband.
She means a lot to me. She means the world to me. She's my pillar of strength. She motivates me when I'm down. And today is it's a special day, it's a birthday, where all the other years that we've been together, there's not one birthday that we can say that she's ever shared being happy. And I think this is a wonderful present for her from the Lord. Being happy this day and being a family.
I'm most grateful out of everything for God, yes, in everything that He's done, because I would never have done it on my own. I put God first now, something I never knew. And the more I learned how to love God, the more I love my husband.
It's amazing how God works within our lives. We see the two people, George and Rush, the way God worked in their lives. Every person that I've seen has a special testimony how God was able to deal with them. And there's no difference within their testimony.
In the United States of America, where we're from, we see this happen all over the United States. But there's no boundaries with God. He says, go into all nations and preach the gospel of my kingdom. And we're seeing that this same gospel that worked years ago when you started in East LA with a handful of people has now spread worldwide, touching drug addicts, gang members, hurting people, literally all over the world, and now in Johannesburg, South Africa. It's exciting to see that.
And there's a move of God in South Africa. We look at Cape Town, the way God is moving and God is working. Many people are getting saved, getting delivered, giving their lives to Christ. And then Johannesburg, God is doing something very, very special in Johannesburg. And that's the calling that he's given to Victory Outreach, to go all over the world, inner cities, and take the gospel of Jesus Christ.
And what's interesting to me, Dad, is going into South Africa, it's like really going into virgin territory. It's like the old days when you first got saved, they said once a junkie, always a junkie. There was really no hope for them. Now, Victory Outreach has come in and shared that there is hope and that God can break that yoke of bondage, that God can set them free. And then not only set them free, they could go into a recovery home and get completely delivered and completely recovered, and God could put a calling on their lives. And that's what's taking place right now in South Africa.
And the calling that he's put on their lives, they're now going out, and there's an explosion that has taken place in South Africa because they have received the calling of God. Once they have received it, to also go and tell people about it. They testify how Jesus was able to change their lives, and it's having such a tremendous reaction.
It's exciting, you know, because not only can God do it with them, but those of you that are viewing right now, you may be in a bondage yourself. You may be struggling with addictions. You may be struggling in life in general. If Jesus could change people literally in these remote places all over the world, don't you think he could touch you today? I believe this is your day, the day of salvation, the day to be set free, and the day to have a new life.
And what I want to do right now, I want to say a prayer for you right now. And I want you to repeat this prayer with me. This is a prayer of faith. You're going to be inviting Jesus to come into your life. Would you pray this prayer with me right now? The prayer of faith. Say, Jesus, that's it. Jesus, I come to you right now. And just the way I am, I ask you to come into my life and to set me free. Deliver me from all habits. I surrender and I give my life to you. There are so many people that I've heard and I've been able to see. Just go ahead and say this prayer and see the power of God, how God was able to transform them and how God was able to deliver them and God was able to change them.
And if God did it for them, we know he could do it for you, and I believe he has. He has done it for you. If you said that prayer, just believe that God has changed your life. Go to a local church, get into a Bible teaching church, and let God continue the work he began in your life.
And we'll be looking forward to seeing you again real soon. May God bless you.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode of Treasures. We would like to encourage you to visit our website. There, you will find many resources available to you, including on-demand episodes of Treasures that you can watch anytime, anywhere. While you're on our website, browse through it and read about some of the featured stories of past episodes. Also, feel free to contact us or leave a prayer request. From your desktop, laptop, tablet, or even your phone, you can now keep up with Treasures on the go on treasurestv.org.
If you're from South Africa, we are now in Johannesburg and Cape Town. And if you need help, you need support, you need prayer, you need to go into a recovery home, Victory Outreach is here for you. Just click on our website to get more information on our services or prayer or recovery homes as well. So click today and get hope and help in Jesus.